everyone. Can you hear me? Yes, you can. I can hear myself. So welcome to this really interesting panel. Or as I told, or I related to my fellow panelists, this is an arena, and we're going to do battle. So I call them gladiators, right? And this is a very important conversation around product. And what does product mean? Okay? And why is product under siege today, right? So that's why we call this panel Product is Dead, or Long Live Product. Product is dead, long live product, okay? So I'm going to just get started. And before you answer the question the first time, please just give us a quick introduction as to who you are and why you're here, why we actually have you on this panel as opposed to anybody else, okay? So I'm going to start with you, Jordan, okay? Is product dead?
So my background is I'm an engineer by training. I was early employee at Wise, and then I founded a venture builder where we built roughly like 15 companies from US to Japan. And product is not dead. We definitely are iterating faster and faster. So that's my take on it.
Okay. But, you know, there seems to be energy out there, and actually tangible energy, that people think product is no longer relevant. There are product teams, wholesale product teams, that are being laid off. There are think pieces out there that are saying product is no longer necessary. There are engineering teams that are like, we don't need product people. We can do this work ourselves, right? So Maria, what do you think about that? I know you've written some pieces around this. What is it that is driving this sentiment that the product practice is really no longer as relevant as we think it should be?
Hello, everyone. Well, I first think the reason why this is happening is because we love drama. And, our brains love drama. And when we look deep into what's really happening, I bet there's a lot of people doing work that are completely away from the drama. You know, they're not into those conversations. They're just busy doing work. Maybe they are called product managers. Maybe they're not called product managers. And I would go back to what do we mean by product when we ask the question, right? Is product dead? Oh, I don't think so. Because if product is about solving problems that the market needs solved, that's going to continue to happen, regardless of whatever we call the functions that are involved doing that.
Yeah. Surya, what do you think? I mean, you've worked with some badass, kick-ass product people.
Sure.
You are a product person, even if we can't define you that way, right?
I am.
But what do you think? You know, what's going on here? Why is this something that's happening out there?
Hello, everyone. I'm Surya, and my background is, and on this panel as well, I will be providing a point of view coming from the world of design, and also having spent a lot of time in enterprise and as a founder, probably two different points of view. So just the enterprise for 16 years at Microsoft, running the central design team at Microsoft, but transitioning from being very much a designer to being a product person. And so my view really in the question, is product dead? I don't think so. I think it has expanded because we are having this conversation at this time when we move to the experience economy. And so what product has done is expanded to the surrounds of what is before product, after product, around product. So it has expanded its definition to the entire set of interactions, and product being almost the nucleus.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know, and the reason because I was about to take some notes, because I felt like you were about to go deep into it, right?
Oh.
Well, let's go deep into it. Jordan, Maria, Surya. So when you say something is dead, that's probably because there's also a lot of noise. Product got very popular, very popular. Everybody wanted to be a product. In fact, I know a lot of engineers. You transitioned from engineering to product. I know, a lot of really great product people came from engineering or design into what you call product management, right? But then there was a lot of noise. You go on LinkedIn today, everybody's telling you about how to do product, the science of doing product. Is that part of the reason? Is there an oversaturation of what we call product people that folks are like, you know what, to hell with this. I don't believe any of these guys. I'm just going to go do it the way I want to do it. Anyone want to take on that?
So I think if I think about what you said, is something dead, I think there's definitely a sickness. I think we're psychotic right now in the industry. So it's not dead, but it's definitely not thriving because we're psychotic. And I think it's one of the issues that I've observed within the function of product management as well is what we do is complex. Like if there was a formula to knowing how to get to market, how to solve a problem, what's the most efficient way to do it, how to keep customers happy and bring in lots of money for the business, everybody would be doing it. But it's not easy. And when things are not easy and then the environment around us stops being so generous, we try to go after fixes. And that's why, for example, I believe there's an obsession with what's the right framework, what's the right formula, what's the right approach, because it gives us that ease of mind. It makes us feel like we can hold on to something that is going to tell us where to go, and how to solve the problem, but in reality, there's no formula. And so I think with the function, the same thing happened. Oh, we don't know how to solve these problems. We need to bring someone that has experience. I've heard about this role, product management, they're going to help us. And so we bring one, and then we bring 10, and when we bring 50, when maybe we didn't need that, because we didn't stop to think about exactly what part of the problem we were struggling with, exactly what kind of expertise or tools we needed, regardless of what you call the person doing the job. So I think that's probably part of the issue, but I bet there's a ton I don't see because it's a big context and complex context. So I bet that's just part of the story.
Yeah. Jordan, what do you think?
Well, I'm just trying to think through what are the expectations for a product owner. And if I would need to summarize it into one sentence, I would say the expectation is to inspire the team to build the right things. Okay. Somebody needs to do it, right? I mean, somebody needs to talk to the customers the most and be in contact with the market the most. So maybe the phenomenon that you are observing is that engineers are picking up some of the slack, which is a good thing. But somebody still needs to focus on it full time. What do you think about that expectation?
Right.
Inspiring the team to build the right thing.
Right. You know, he used...
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'd love to build on what you're saying. So, my own journey has been... So, I was working, earlier in my career on like super big, complex products at Microsoft, as a designer on SQL Server, on Exchange Server. At that point, as a designer, my job was just presentation layer. And then there were all these other super technical folks who took care of the engineering, and then there were these PM folks who were making sure the thing got out of the door. And we are doing this sort of the triangle, right, in terms of the scope, the time, the cost, and all of that. And then it's interesting as products evolve, and I found in the work I was doing, then my responsibilities became the experience. So beyond UI, moving to the UX, and now there are a different set of skills and also different ownership, right? And then that moved to actually becoming the product owner. And doing that. So the reason I talk of that journey is because there's some things, I think the key takeaway is, there's some pretty handy mindsets, methods, and behaviors that come from the world of design that become super handy for product management. For example, the idea that you can engineer empathy. The idea that you have methods from a discipline that helps you be adaptable, fast, and experimental, right? The fact that you have a discipline that is fundamentally facilitative in the way it works, so which means you can rally people around highly complex, changing situations but keep inspiration and keep optimism alive.
Right.
Right? And so that's what I found in my journey, sort of going through stage. So to your point, Jordan, right? Now, that's me coming from design, but at the same time, I've seen other folks who come from engineering take a similar path, and I've seen people who's defined as product also come into. So my engineering skills got deeper, but my core remained design. And there are folks from engineering, their core may have been engineering, but they've built all of the other skills that came from this other way of thinking, right? So there are also the pieces of what each of these disciplines bring rather than the individual people.
Yeah, yeah. This is interesting because you both use the language product owner,
Yeah.
right? I've seen organizations where that has caused a significant amount of trouble,
Yeah.
angst, drama. Is that also part of the problem? Is a product owner a product manager? If an engineering team is working with a product owner, are they working with a product manager? Has the agile framework or methodology bastardized the overall sense of what a product management function looks like? So is that also part of the problem too? So I know that was a multifaceted, layered question, but I've seen where some of that has probably popped up as part of the issue. Is a product owner a product manager, or is a product owner a project manager? All of that. And our organizations reacting to that, saying, okay, we had too many people, we don't even know who these people are, so we're just going to get rid of them. What do you think?
Okay, everyone's looking at me. Let's give it a shot. I think that's actually a symptom rather than part of the problem. And again, it's the symptom that we're not asking the right question. Like, what does it matter if it's called a product owner or if it's a product manager or if you don't have any of those titles in the team? But again, you have people in the team with the skills to understand what the business needs, what are the market opportunities, and what are the skills we have to test options and put them out in the market. Right. And I think all of those conversations get trapped into, I actually was triggered. It's funny that you mentioned it because when they started answering and they said product owner, I got triggered. So what I did is I stopped and asked myself, why did it trigger me that they used the term product owner? Right? I spent the first few years of my career, I jumped into product manager, I guess like most of us did, from somewhere else not knowing what that was. And so that was one of the first questions that I asked myself because I saw people were using different terminologies, product owner, product manager, project manager, these, that, what should I be, and fall into the identity trap. But then I stopped and asked myself, what are we trying to do here? Why is it that they asked me to take on this role? What is the skill that I have that they believe can help with the problem we have at hand, and forget about the naming? But I got triggered because I fell in the trap of the wrong, of getting into the wrong discussion. So I think we have to, if we want to stop the drama and really go back into what matters, which is, are we solving the right problems? Are we solving them efficiently and effectively? Then we can help by stepping away from those discussions. It doesn't really matter what you call it. What matters is, what are we trying to do here? Are we missing anything? Do we have any gaps in the team to be able to do what we need to do?
Yeah, but is that realistic at a Microsoft? Can we get away with, it doesn't matter what you call it, let's just focus on the art and science of solving problems, right? Let's build products that people love without really being concerned. Is that realistic, especially in big organizations or even startups? Well, maybe not in startups, but in big organizations, medium-sized technical organizations. Is that realistic?
So, because you also brought up Microsoft, I think that was again, a part of a big learning for me, I think, in my own career as well. But so fundamentally, if you think of this product person, they need to they're finally accountable, getting the thing done, aligning your business goals, your user needs, and getting it done, right? And so now, the old Microsoft, which was like the extreme command and control organization, right? The product manager role also echoed that. So there was a sense of ownership. So there was a sense of one alpha who's going to be driving things through, right? Making sure, a bit of a cop, right? Making sure everybody met their deadlines, that things were done on time, and finally was on the hook because they got rewarded or they got punished for that. So that was the product owner person. I think what has happened since, and in a very healthy way, is that ownership has spread across the team, and there's the role of the successful product manager is somebody who now is the conductor of the orchestra, the catalyst, right? The person who can provide clarity, generate energy, make sure the results are delivered, right? But it's not command and control, simply because, not just because command and control is kind of unpleasant to work with, but more importantly, if you use a command and control system, you just can't get stuff done at the pace we are moving, right? And so I think that, so the idea of ownership in one person, that is an obsolete idea, right? Especially when you go to larger teams. You can't do that. Right. You have to figure out more creative ways of conducting and sharing leadership, handing off leadership back and forth, but there's somebody who's doing the orchestration.
Yeah. Jordan, how was it at Wise? I mean, talk to me about your experience coming up at Wise and how that evolved, because that was a smaller organization than Microsoft.
Yeah. Well, I think the short answer just about the naming convention is that the people I like to hire like the term product ownership or product owner. Okay.
Interesting.
Why?
Why, exactly.
Why? Yeah. Okay. So the way I like to put together teams is that they are KPI driven. So the team owns the KPI. The team creates a plan, reasons through the plan, and executes it. Okay. And the reason for that kind of a structure, that you want to give a lot of ownership to the team for the execution, is it basically comes down to intrinsic motivation. Maybe you read through the famous research of Dan Pink, where basically for people to do good work, they want autonomy, mastery, and purpose. So you kind of need to give a lot of autonomy. That's why I say that the product owner mission is to inspire the team. Yeah. Not to tell them what to do, but to inspire them to do the right things. And that includes bringing evidence on why we are building the particular thing that we are building, right? To summarize it up, this is typically called in the industry autonomous teams, or autonomous independent teams. They own a KPI or they own some kind of a goal, and they are free to execute without restrictions. So coming back 30 years, like the famous slogan by Steve Jobs, hire smart people and get out of the way. Yeah, you want to give people as much trust as they can bear, because then they work at their best. There's absolutely no point in hiring smart people and then micromanaging them, right? So to me, the term ownership is effective because it reminds us that we own that particular KPI. Maybe it's conversion, maybe it's retention.
Okay. All right, so then, let me pivot away and let me get to what I'll call the thing of the moment and how it's impacting our field, which is AI, right? And it's interesting that we're having this discussion at a time when AI has become kind of the number one thing that everybody's talking about, LLMs, Gen AI, agents, and all of that. It also coincides with Brian Chesky. I don't know if you listened to his podcast conversation with Lenny, where he essentially said that I'm essentially repurposing my product managers to become go-to-market people, right? Do you think this is happening, these conversations are happening now because maybe organizations think that they can do product via AI? Is ChatGPT the new product manager? Anybody? Surya, go ahead.
A couple of reflections. First is, the Steve Jobs quote, which I love, right? Hi, people, get out of the way. I think plus oneing that, but with a caveat, right? Which is the pattern that I have seen in many places where I work with smart people is smart people can also cancel each other out, right? And so there's some addition to that of hire smart people, get out of the way, but create clear North Stars, right? So they are all working towards the right thing. Otherwise, they can do really, really smart things, but they're basically canceling each other out, right? So I think it's interesting you bring up Brian Chesky, who's actually, a designer,
Design guy.
right?
Design guy, yeah.
And so there is this, and not because I'm being turfish about the discipline that I come from, but just the notion of what he's saying about folks being go-to-market, being customer success rather than product management. It's really shorthand, again, for this whole notion of design, or this design mindset, right? Where what you're doing is you're looking at success from the point of view, what's the journey? What's the story? Right? And looking at it from a different frame rather than thinking technology out, right? But really thinking about that whole construct. So going back to the point of is product dead? My notion, it's expanded.
It's expanded.
It's expanded to being the role of the product person is now being the great storyteller, right? Who also knows how to manage technology, but able to tell the story externally and internally,
Right. Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And keep because if change is happening so fast, technology is developing so fast. The resilient thing you have is story, the thread that runs through the narrative thread. So that's my view on. Did I answer your question at all,
No, and
or did I take it somewhere else?
You answered the question, and Brian Chesky, of course, everyone knows, CEO, co-founder of Airbnb. So you answered the question, essentially a design guy,
Yeah.
kind of putting his foot on the product conversation and saying, this is how I feel about it. So as a consultant, is ChatGPT, are you seeing ChatGPT being, or Claude or Gemini, whoever, are you seeing that becoming kind of the clarion call of teams saying, we don't need that many product managers, or we don't need any. We think we can kind of do this through that platform.
I mean, honestly, I see it like any other tool that has been new and exciting and different, and the reaction is always the same. Like, before it became this big thing, I was working in a company where there was a team trying to figure out how to use machine learning to solve some of our problems. And it was modest. It was step by step. It was, hey, how is that data collection going? You know what? It's tough. It's going to take us more time. Okay, what do? We continue with the other stuff. It wasn't the big, oh my God, we have this very smart machine learning stuff, and this is going to solve all of our problems. It was a tough problem to solve, and we took the time. We were, I wouldn't say slow. We were just, consistent, trying. We failed. Nobody talks about those failures. Then ChatGPT came out, and suddenly AI is the solution to all of our problems, but it's not. It's just a tool. So what I'm afraid is that we're doing with it the same thing we do with the other tools. Before we understand them ourselves, before we understand what we're missing to be able to use a tool like this effectively, we're already trying to sort of plaster it over everything. So I don't think it's going to replace, human thinking, it might actually just mess up with it, because again, we are using it wrongly already, and I just think that whoever is making this decision of we don't need these people, AI is going to solve the problem, they're going to face probably a tough reality. Maybe we don't need as many people as we decided we needed and went on a hiring spree, right? But that's a separate story. So I don't think it's going to replace things. I think some people are going to be smart about using it as a complement to their work. Some people are not going to be smart about using it, and we'll see what the results are.
Okay, so if we expand on tools and frameworks, let's talk about what does success look like in a product environment today? And that's a very simple question. I actually am not going to elaborate. What does product success look like in today's environment? And it's almost like a tricky question, but what does it look like? Today we have this big conference. There's this Estonia, kind of this very well-known digital society, a product-driven society. What does product success for a consultant, for an engineer, for a startup, for a big company? What does that look like today?
I think it's the same as before. Product success is about solving problems that customers will use and pay for, and that creates a sustainable business.
Right.
Does the way we do it can create conflict? Yes, but I don't think there's anything about today that changes that fundamental definition.
Is there not a focus on the bottom line that seems to be pervasive, where product success may not necessarily be that you have fallen in love with the problem and you're solving it, but that you are actually making money?
So I think some of the, if I jump in, from where I am seeing the shift, maybe I'm a bit of a dinosaur, having seen a point where your product success, you primarily was business goals, and then how much you satisfy user and therefore meet business goals, and how much you succeed in the market, how much you're reaching, whether it's because I was working in large enterprise, we think of the first 100 million to the next first billion, or whatever it's, right? But now when I look at the kind of metrics that have become important, because times have shifted very quickly. We know that being sustainable has become super urgent and become super important. We're aware that our technology is at a point where they are really have that ability of breaking the world. So we have to have new metrics around ethics, around sustainability, right? So that we can build businesses, right, that are successful, but also sustainable in the long term, right? And we also know that the adoption by customers is such that they're not making adoption just on features or scenarios. They're making adoption based on how much they actually relate to a brand and they align with brand values and so on. So they're new metrics, right? And so just in terms of very grounded approaches that, when I'm working on a product and with consulting, so I do think about think in 4 horizons, right? What's our horizon for this product, right? What are our metrics for this release? What are our metrics for our release that is coming next, right? Now, it is different if you're building a SaaS service that you're talking about, those horizons being closer for different products or wider. And then what are you actually thinking about? That is several months down the line. And what are you thinking about in the long-term horizon, right? And have metrics tied to all of those.
Interesting. I wanted to, because we're going to open it up. Hopefully we have some questions from the audience, I've been told. But I wanted to kind of ask the entire panel, if you are coaching, or when you are coaching, because we're all coaches, right? When you're coaching or consulting with a startup, what is your advice to them today on building a product team that will help them become successful? So I'll start with you, Maria.
I will start from asking them to understand their current team made up, right? How are they organized? How are they dependent on one another? Or, what's the chain of command, if there's one? To see if we need to move things around. And, you were saying before that it's unrealistic to not have the conversation about the naming. It's possible. I think if you just put the names aside for a little while, that's the same thing I advise if you're going to look into what's needed in your team. Forget about the names, forget about the roles. Look at who you have right now what are they doing? How do the interactions look at it as a system, basically, right? Yeah. And check what's working in that system. What's broken there in the inputs? Are you missing inputs? Do you have the wrong inputs? Are we processing them wrong? Reorganize, and then you can start labeling and playing around with teams. So I wouldn't go and give, out of the recipe book specific advice unless I understand their specific context.
Okay, Jordan.
Yeah, I think I'm very opinionated about it. I understand that there are many ways to do things well, and my particular kind of guidance is, for example, on hiring. You only hire engineers who read through Lean Startup and watch Y Combinator videos. Basically, you don't want people in your team who do not understand product at all or can't talk in terms of goals and KPIs and what are we trying to achieve. So every engineer needs to read through at least a few books and a blog post. If they don't want to do it, there's no cultural fit. For product owners, an example would be if you haven't talked to a customer in the past week or two, not hiring. Like basically trying to build a super cross-functional team where everybody have ownership, everybody is equal, and they have one goal.
Okay, all right. Surya.
Yeah, I would, yeah, I'll build on what you said. I'm looking at OKRs more than KPIs, right? I find OKRs are handy, right? But the evolution of KPIs, same concept, right? So as long as you have the people, they understand whether it's KPIs, OKR, they understand the construct of these outcomes that they're driving towards, right? Now, coming from the world of design, the other piece that I look for or that people can learn is experience outcomes, right? Which you can double click on your OKRs and go to experience outcomes. And that they're able to understand a way of thinking in scenarios, right? They can understand entire customization. But most importantly, I think, is in terms of just that both beyond intellectual capabilities, that there is an aptitude for learning. Because everyone you hire, they're going to get obsolete in their skills pretty quickly. So do they have the confidence and aptitude to learn? And are they like naturally a learner? And they're going to adapt because your product is going to adapt. If you're pivoting a little bit previously, we're going to pivot so much more.
Yeah.
And as you pivot, do you have a learning team? And do you have a learning team that has, of course, that's if in a leadership role, is a learning team where there is the right kind of emotional IQ, you can build trust across people. So you can build a learning team that has high trust, right? Obviously, if you're a leader, you're responsible for setting up those conditions so that you're going to constantly keep evolving. And the frame that I really like and I try to move to, are you going to constantly be able to swarm together on problems? Because there's going to be different hard problems. And can you build a team that can come together, swarm on that, right? And then the next very different hard problem shows up. Can the team swarm together? So are they those smart people that, you want to get out of the way, but also are they learners and have that hunger to learn? And you can see that pretty quickly in somebody when you start interviewing. Are they a learner? Do they have that fixed mindset, or do they have the learning mindset?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, cool. Thank you very much. We're going to open it up to the audience for any questions. Is there like a roving mic? Yeah, I see a roving mic. There's some folks up there too. So are there any questions for the panelists that we can address? Please just say your name, where you're from, and keep it tight.
Hi, I'm Thomas from TARC. I have a question. As you're a seed stage company getting funded, you need to move really fast, get the product team up and running. How do you move really fast from the forming, storming to actually getting to the performing stage because money is running out?
Yeah. Jordan and then Maria.
Well, that's why it's important to hire people or get them on the same page quickly. And you just have basically a checklist of things to do to get the team on the same page quickly. A simple example could be quarterly planning, where teams set up their goals, right? So even if new people come in, you want to structure it so that you give them more than enough support and feedback. At the same time, holding them accountable, right? And that's why having common vocabulary helps, like simple stuff like ruthless prioritization, or what is a lean startup, or what is KPI or OKR. Like everybody needs to know that, or if they don't know it by the time of hiring, they need to have that background information during their first months, just through reading through a bunch of stuff. Then you get people speaking the same language and aligning on the same goal.
Okay, Maria.
Yeah, I guess you have to spend time together, a lot of time together, and that allows to solidify those common languages and words. Being able to check in very often. Are you still in? Are you tiring out? And basically spend a lot of time together doing the job, but checking in how we're feeling about how the work is being done if you want to accelerate, right? I guess that's why incubators are called incubators, because you really put things like in a petri dish to kind of reproduce there in this particular environment. So that's what you want to do.
Yeah, and my quick response to that would be, one of the counsels that I always give is, now this is a leadership question, right? Who are the folks, actually goes to what Jordan was speaking to, who are the folks who are making sure that the teams are now aligned? What problems are we solving? And don't go trying to solve that problem, don't go trying to solve that problem. We actually have business goals. You go, this is where we're going. And they know how to make sure people are swarming and people are aligned and people, regardless of title, they are solving the problems. Yeah. So, all right, next.
One very tactical, if I may just
sorry.
say, I'll keep it short, but one very tactical piece that I find super useful is get your team to backcast, right? So have a very tangible view of what that future is. So you don't waste cycles and resources because you don't have too many resources in the scenario you're describing. So we know it, of course, as, a big company that does that successful is Amazon with their future releases, right? Their future memos and so on. But I find that that is a great forcing function. When you don't have a lot of resources, you need absolute clarity on what success looks like, right? As you're moving through those stages.
All right, please.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Ibrahim. I'm from Delali. Now, this question has still piggybacking on him, but even at a much earlier stage, where there are just maybe two people that are starting the company. Most times, it's usually the three, maybe a design, a developer, and a generalist or a hustler, trying to just hack the idea. Now, how do you start at that very early stage of trying to set, that product mindset in building? That everything is changing very, very quickly, and we just don't have the resources to do things. So setting that mindset for product-led creation. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, like my favorite thing, like my favorite tool, basically, like my favorite hammer, like is customer interviews. Getting in front of customers, every stage of building things, from the time you come up with hypothesis, the time you come up with your prototype and you're trying to validate your value proposition to the point where you actually have like a clickable Figma something, to the time where you have something implemented, like keep the customer feedback iterations going. And I usually set them up twice a week. Like there's one person who is doing customer interviews, for example, every Tuesday and Thursday, bringing in all of the feedback, synthesizing it, and aligning teams through that. I mean, if you think about number one Y Combinator advice, it is, what is it? Talk to the customers and write code. So that's the basic stuff, how you get yourself going in the right direction. Talk to the customers and write code.
Yeah. Any other response to that?
Couldn't agree more with talk to the customer. And the thing is, you can have super impactful customers even pre-code, because anything can be a framework for that conversation with the customer, including words, including a diagram, including a PowerPoint, including all of those. It's not, you don't always need a lot to have great customer conversation, but the thing that it saves you from, we're human, we fall in love with what we do. It's just natural part of the process. So it's that frequent connections just keeps you from falling in love with it, while you still remain passionate, but not fall in love, so then you're headed in the wrong way.
Yeah. Okay, and just again, and I did tell the organizers I'm a moderator participant. Very quick answer or response to your question would be, if you have 3 people, 2 people, you guys are a squad. You're a product team. Everybody's doing everything. Like 2 of you will go out, do the customer interviews, come back, synthesize, maybe another 2. It is all in, as she said. You're all in. As you grow, then all of a sudden you start to delegate, right? But at that early stage, I mean, I've been there 3 or 4 times. I've failed 3 times. I don't know if it's because we didn't do certain things, but I can tell you that early hustle culture, everybody's product. All of us. It doesn't matter whether you've never done product in your life before, you're doing product because you're talking to customers. You learn how to use Figma. You learn how to use no-code tools. Whatever it is, you got to learn. Everybody's learning. That's what we're doing. We're swarming, right? I love that language. And I'm going to claim it, and I'm going to patent it.
Oh, I've already patented.
Oh, shit. So that would be my response to you. We have 1 minute. So we can't take any more questions. I would just like to get final 20-second sound bites from my panelists to kind of end this. And say whatever you want. We don't care. So go ahead, Maria. You start, because we're going this way.
Stay curious.
Stay curious.
That's the best way to do products. Stay curious.
Right. Okay, Jordan.
Yeah, so I think the answer to the question, will AI do our jobs, is yes. It's a question of timing. But the iterations will get faster and faster. So that's something I think we need to be clear on. You need to build very fast feedback loops, and they're getting faster by the day.
Okay. Thank you, Jordan. Surya.
I think it's a super exciting time where a lot more people can actually be in the product business. The barriers of entry to being in the product business are far fewer. Just because of where technologies are going, because all the resources out there. So huge opportunities for a lot more people.
Yeah. And just to close, first things is thank you, everyone, right? Product is not dead. It will never be dead. So don't get it twisted. We are keeping the product torch alive. You got 4 of us here and many in the audience. So thank you for listening to us, and we'll keep this conversation going in other forums, okay? So thank you very much. Thank you.